Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is, where can I write this? Saturday, December 21st, 2024. And I don't have room to write the topic, but basically the topic for today is, I'll probably call it Redrawing My OC or something like that. Sounds pretty good. And that's what this page has. And welcome back if you are returning, and welcome if you're new. I sketch and post every day and use timers to stay focused and build a sketching habit. So I'll start a 10-minute timer because it may take a little bit of time. I don't know, I'm not sure, but I started a 10-minute timer, and so there's several different things I wanted to go over. So of course I'm gonna sketch, and so in this page, sketchbook page, I'll link to a video where I did a lot of this sketching just from imagination because it's my OC and everything, and I think I called it like my RPG origin story. I'm not sure, but I'll link to it in case you're interested. But it kind of talked about like how I came up with the character, like the idea, and basically the main character, at least for like the first trilogy of books I have in mind. But there's a lot of characters. She's one of my favorites to kind of draw. So I wanted to put something here, and so I'll work on that in this video. But then the other thing I wanted to do was not really a sketchbook tour, or at least start a sketchbook tour. Like my sketchbooks are, it's kind of a long story, but they're not that organized right now. I still have a cough, so I'll edit out any coughing in case you're wondering. But yeah, first I'll just kind of talk about this, and I think it ties in with this, the character and like the page, since I'm going to be drawing from it. And this is the earliest sketchbook that I have currently, like just physically. But yeah, I'll start off by talking about that. So consider it the beginnings of a sketchbook tour. So yeah, this is a moleskin sketchbook, and I had this sticker, this yin and yang sticker, which I have stories about, like the symbolism there, and also just kind of like the philosophy, which I don't practice it or anything, but I do like a lot of the philosophy of that, and like the Tao Te Ching and stuff like that. That's not really what my channel's about, but I mean it's in there. Also, obviously I use pen and ink, so it kind of lends itself to the graphic look. But that's mainly, it's like the aesthetic, but then there's also philosophical things that I like. The sketchbook itself is a moleskin, good old moleskin. So I originally bought this in 2016, and so that's when I started it, and so that's part of the story. And I've done videos, and I do bring it up when I feel like it's helpful, but I've done videos where I talked about like art blocks and like the creative flow and stuff, which I feel like this year I've found my creative flow, which is awesome. But I've also, like, this is what the sketchbook is kind of about. I had to deal with art block, and this was it was kind of an ongoing thing, and we'll get into all that. And I'm not going to be able to talk about everything in one video, but I do think it's important to share, because that is one of the things I focus on this channel, is the artistic journey, and specifically my personal experience and how that can help or just kind of connect or relate with others. So yeah, to begin with, yeah, I won't be able to flip through every single page of this. It's incredibly personal in some ways, and then in some ways it's not. It's just sketches, but that's part of, to me, like what art is. It's or what I connect with is like the personal aspect of it. And I actually didn't complete them, so we'll start with the first page here, and then I'll sketch the OC like I said. So we'll start with the first page. I usually don't sketch on the first page, but I came back and did it. I usually do it like at the end, or I'll use it as like a test page for pens and markers and stuff. So the dates on it on here says 2020, and so you can kind of see the journey I went through since I said that I bought this in 2016. So I'll talk about it some, and then I'll show this page, and I'm going to redraw this. That's kind of what I meant. And this, I'm going to make a note, actually. I pretty much will not sketch over an old sketch, but I'll write a note or a date, because I feel like that's helpful. So I'm going to make a note that this was 2016. But you can see like most of it, it's going to fluctuate. It's between 2016 and 2020. But that's what this page has. And then, but yeah, I'll sketch this one today. But so I came back and sketched this part. So we'll stick with this one. So yeah, 2016, this is actually the first sketch, and that's when I started the sketchbook. I believe I did finish it in 2020, maybe. And basically I went through it. I've talked about how I set 1 minute timers and then like 5 minute timers. Like right now I'm currently doing 10 minutes, right? Like in this video, but 5 minutes is kind of the sweet spot. But then 1 minute was sort of all I could do for a while, since the other video was talking about my RPG origin story, I guess I can talk about the origin story of this sketchbook. And I could do a tour of it, but then some of it I'll have to not show, just because it's personal. And that's part of what's like I'll talk about. So at the time when I bought this, yeah, I'm not going to go into details, but yeah, it was like a very challenging time in my life. And I actually wouldn't say that I was in an art block, but I would say that it was leading up to the art block. So when I talk about art blocks, so in the video where I talked about that, so maybe I'll link to that one too, I talked about how they're not going to happen that frequently, but they're kind of a big deal when they do happen. And you can call it a creative block. It doesn't have to be art block, whatever, but you're blocked from doing something creative. But yeah, I actually wasn't in one at the time, but it was leading up to one, which is interesting in hindsight because you don't realize that at the time. But I knew, I was facing a lot of life challenges. So it was a big deal. I didn't have a ton of money at the time. And I've also mentioned how I lost, or I had to throw out all my old sketchbooks. So this was the first one after that event, because I had all of my artwork since I was a kid. It was a lot of stuff. And again, I won't go into detail about that, except that happened. But then, so that was part of what I was going through. And so it was kind of a big deal to even go out and buy my first sketchbook after that happened. And so, yeah, it had been a while since I had sketched and had sketchbooks, because I did throw them out. And at the time I was doing some freelance work, but I was doing that digitally. So yeah, I bought this, which moleskins are kind of overpriced, or that's what I think. But I like them. But there's a lot of other sketchbooks that I like now. Now I don't really think too much about it. But so I bought that. And then, so I was wanting to get back into being creative. I had gone to like the bookstore and it was tough. And again, just for a lot of different reasons. So that's 10 minutes. I will do some sketching. I'll start another 10-minute timer. And then, so I bought this, and then I bought a pen. And so at the time, I was using like a Precise rollerball pen, Pilot Precise. And so that's what pretty much all of the sketches are from that. And it works really well on this paper. Not necessarily, the other thing I was going to say, like, not necessarily if you cover everything, it sort of warps this paper a little bit because it's kind of thin. But if you just kind of sketch it like a little bit, it's fine. But yeah, it works really well on this paper, and I want to pick up some more of those pens actually, but they do kind of smear a little bit, especially if you're left-handed. And I am left-handed, but I've always just kind of had to do the left to right thing. I can't sketch the opposite way. It feels weird to me. I never even thought about it actually until I saw people doing it on YouTube. But yeah, this was from 2016, and I still remember, and that's the good thing about sketchbooks is they can act as a journal. So I remember I bought it, and it was really hot, and at the time my car didn't have air conditioning, and I drew it in my car, and it was really tough because it had been a while since I just sketched in a sketchbook, and I was using, so I bought the pen, and this is what I sketched, and I had already thought of this character, which I talked about in the other video. Like, I had created her a long time ago, and then just kind of sketched her on and off, and then this is what I felt like sketching. When you're on your way into the block, which is interesting because I didn't know that at the time. I just knew that I wanted to do this, like wanted to sketch, and it was really tough, but I did it, and it just kind of brought up all all of the inner voice, like the inner critic. And again, I was heading into a block and I didn't know that. But now looking back, I'm like proud of myself for doing it. So maybe that will help somebody. Not to say that I want anyone to be going into a creative block. I guess the other way to think about it would be that sometimes it's like that. Now, okay, if I were to give myself advice, if you will, I don't like giving out advice, but unless it's to myself, I guess, what I would do is just do the 1 minute. Because at the time when I started this sketchbook, I wasn't doing that. And so that's what I would do. And I think that would help, because we can't always stop things like creative blocks or like life challenges, but there's things that will help sort of like in general. And so that's what I would do, is because at the time, obviously, I wasn't doing this channel and I wasn't watching YouTube about, I couldn't even watch, I didn't have the internet. So again, it was a very challenging time. But my point is, if you are able to, like, for example, watch my videos, that would help. And it depends on what video you're watching. So if at the time that I was doing this and going through this, I mean, I wouldn't want to be watching videos about how to kick ass in art and like build your business and stuff, because that wouldn't help me. So what would help me now in hindsight would be, yeah, keep a 1 minute timer and just sketch for a minute. I mean, I don't feel bad for what I went through or like how I did it, because I did it and I learned a lot. And that's going to teach you the most about yourself and about life, is you do whatever you need to do. But just kind of like some tips, I guess, that I would give myself really would just be that. But yeah, I mean, I did it the way that I did it, which is why I'm able to do what I'm doing now. So with that said, I'm going to, yeah, I'll talk about other stuff in here, and it'll be kind of like this because I can't just flip through this, because you can see that it was over several years, and it did lead into an actual creative block, or in this case, I'll just call it like an art block. But that obviously is kind of a long story and personal, and I'll share what I feel is right to share according to what my channel is about. So with that said, let's do some sketching. Yeah, I'll just use this. And this was my cat, and I drew that from memory. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that in a way that was positive. I mean, it's been So, but it's not without its challenges, but also very like meaningful also. So maybe for the for however long the rest of the video will be, so I'm just gonna use this, and I'll just kind of leave it here, and we'll see how that goes. Now I drew the initial sketch. Like I said, I was sitting in my car and it was hot, and in the parking lot of a bookstore or something like that, and I just sketched this from memory, and I just like this look for that character. So that's what I'll do here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a gray marker, because one, I feel like it'll fit sort of the look of the sketchbook page, because that does have something to do with it. And I've been kind of going with this technique where I just kind of do like a light color marker, but I mean, this is basically what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks. So there's a couple of minutes left in this 10 minutes. And as I start to sketch, I'll kind of talk about more like current type stuff, like technique wise. So there's a few different things. I could attempt to draw this, which is good. I mean, I can do, it'll be like a different version and a different technique, and obviously it's been several years since that was 2016, so now it's 2024, so that's 8 years. There's a lot that happened in between there, but yeah, after like this, for example, I mean, eventually over several years, I mean, I was working in jobs that was not art related, which in a way was good, because it kind of helped me get through like the art block, because I couldn't do it. I mean, I was blocked, but again, that's another story. So one thing is, it's funny because I look back and I still like this sketch. So I'm going to make it look very similar, but over here, I'm going to make it fit fit this space. And so that's kind of why I wanted to use this light marker, and then part of it is just for the look. So this kind of goes with like the idea of how do you do different versions of a picture. So if you have a sketch, like all of this is sketching, how do you do like another version of it that's more finished, or just another version of it in general? And it just depends on how close you want it. So I have nothing against, for example, light boxing or tracing, especially if it's your own stuff. I don't really like to do that to stuff that I didn't create, because I just don't like that. I don't believe in that. But yeah, if I really wanted to have a lot of what's in the picture because I like it, because even this one, for example, I guess I could put this over here because I'm just going to draw right here. Yeah, I don't mind like finding ways of just keeping this. There are other ways, which I'm going to do here, which part of this is about proportion, because I want it to fit like right here. So that's one way. The other way is, so now that I have this, the other way would be, how much of an underdrawing do you need? Like you could use a pencil right here. So that's 10 minutes. I'll start another one. So what I kind of like about using the light color marker is that I can kind of sketch, kind of like pencil sketch. So from the side view, a circle. So you'll notice in this one, I was also challenging myself. There's kind of another story about how I started to sketch without pencil and just use a pen. I had been doing that for a little while before this, and that's kind of an important like personal choice also, just to do that. But that's another story. So I'm just gonna do this. Basically draw a Loomis head. I don't have to do it that way because you'll notice I didn't do that here. This was just from pen. But then that's why I had to fix a lot of stuff. In some is overworked in my opinion, but at the same time, it is also very like honest of what I was doing at the time. So if you're doing this, this could be pencil, for example. Yeah, just sketch in the proportions. Like from the side, it's kind of a circle like this. Maybe add a little more. Now, because I'm using a marker, and this is kind of the technique I was using recently, it's just like this marker look. I like it because it builds up the tones and stuff. You could have gray tones. So I'm actually kind of making it a point to scribble or to fill in the color. And so this is one way of doing it. Like for example, if you're drawing comics, I feel like I'm not that worried about the character looking the same. I actually don't like that. I mean, I think it should look similar, or it should look pretty close to like you should know the character. But one thing I don't like about some of the modern stuff, whether it's anime or just American comics or whatever, or like manga and stuff, that style, is because it's more obvious if the character doesn't look the same. So you end up with very generic looking characters. And then, yeah, you can kind of spice it up by rendering it real nice. I just think it's really, really generic. I mean, I don't care. Like, people can like whatever. Just like, I'm not saying what I do is like that great. It's just what I do. But now the argument could be, well, this character is not that original, but it's not original because of the look, or it's original because of what you put into it. And I know, like, professionally, that can go away. Like, that's what I was doing before. In other words, before like getting here, like I was doing my best to basically like, do professional work, and so I would just do whatever. I mean, whatever the project required. But then I just wasn't that. I mean, it was my goal, but then I just wasn't happy. And it's interesting that it turned out the way that it is, like nowadays, where it's just I especially don't want to do it. But I mean, I kind of had that feeling before also. So I'm just gonna sketch. So this could be pencil, and some of the tones actually help. And I'm just using my own sketch, which was from imagination because it's my OC, and I'm just using that as a reference or inspiration. And I'm making it look kind of similar because she can kind of look different ways, obviously, because it's the same character, but it could be different actresses. But anyway, I mainly just wanted to sketch something. So I'm going to use a gray felt tip pen. Again, this is kind of it's sort of the thing I was playing around with in the past few videos. I like it. I mean, you can see that there's different looks. There's this look, and then like I think I used a brush on some of this. There's just different looks. And I did want to talk about style, maybe not in this video. I mean, I could talk about it a little bit, how I mean, I feel like in some ways there's anime qualities to this, or cartoony qualities to it, or comic book that kind of style. So that isn't, it's an influence. But even with like anime, and I'm talking about like the really generic ones, but I do like stuff that is anime style or anime. But the ones that I like they tend to be, for example, like Ghost in the Shell or Akira or like the Final Fantasy type stuff, like or like the Vampire Hunter D stuff. Because this character is actually part of the book series. I'm calling it Project D as the code name for, or like the working title of it, so that I can, one, because some of these things they change some of the names and stuff, so that's just like the working title. Oh yeah, like Vampire Hunter D, it just so happened. So there's a lot of stuff like that too in this is like my opus, in that there's a lot of kind of synchronistic stuff. So like I had always been, not always, but I had been, like I had known about Vampire Hunter D, but I think in the origin story that I was talking about, when I was sketching this page, I was talking about how growing up, like anime wasn't all over the place. It was like it was kind of rare, and like Vampire Hunter D, like you wouldn't necessarily like get to watch that. But like when I saw it, it kind of subconsciously, like I liked it, and it kind of, but like as a kid you don't remember, especially if you can't watch it again. Like you may have randomly seen it, and it kind of stuck with me. Same with like Miyazaki, because I remember like Nausicaa and stuff, but like it would just randomly come on TV, and then I'd watch it, and I would love it, but like only see it once. And so it would subconsciously kind of have an influence. But when I talk about like anime, maybe that's not even anime, I don't know, but like that's what I'm talking about, where it looks different. I mean, yeah, it's from Japan, but like they look different. Like Vampire Hunter D looks different than like Studio Ghibli stuff. What else can I talk about? So anyway, that's what I think about like that kind of thing. It's not that I mean, I appreciate good art. Even with comics, I mean, honestly, like the modern day comics, it's just, to me, it's just not it. Doesn't do it for me. But like my influences with comics is stuff like Mark Silvestri's X-Men stuff. I mean, a lot of the comics from that, like Bill Sienkiewicz's stuff, like really helped me to get into, well, I like the abstractness. Like I got a lot of that from there. And then like really like Hellboy, I liked a lot. I mean, that was my main influence, was comics. Like Frank Miller stuff. I mean, that's kind of another video, I think. So yeah, I wanted to make a video. I'll make one about kind of planning art goals. So there's just a few seconds left. I'll probably make this video just 30 minutes, so I'll just wrap it up. And I just ended up using like gray. But yeah, just redrew. It's an idea. I mean, that was from 2016, so that's something that maybe gave you some ideas, or just let you know a little bit about my experience, like one artist's journey story. So that's 10 minutes, and I'm going to wrap this up. And I want to thank you for joining me today for our daily sketching routine. And if you like these videos, please support the channel. Like I activated like the super thanks. I'll do another video maybe when I talk about like kind of the art goals going into next year. But yeah, I'm just really thankful for your help in supporting the channel. And until next time, keep on sketching.